grab your drink and sit down. Listen to the podcast of the strange, the old, the pagan, and the Christian overcoming evil. This is the Grizzly Files podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Grizzly File podcast. I'm very excited. Wife, are you excited?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mrs. Grizzly is very excited to talk about cannibals and giants and all kinds of things. It's just way her thing.
Yes.
I didn't drag her into a closet, call it a studio, and say, "You're going to help me with this." No, that's not what happened.
Clearly, it's a cellar.
It's a cellar. Wine cellar. Yes, a wine cellar. So,
Where you can go wine.
Speaking of whining, wife.
I know, I didn't get the bottle I wanted today.
That's true.
So I'm drinking iced coffee.
Mm.
Medium roast.
Yeah, at the beginning we're going to talk about, because basically we're having you guys join in on our nightly little engagements. Usually we have a glass of wine or something to cool down before bed. Tonight it's coffee because it was a rough day and we had to do this podcast. And, wine can be expensive. Oh my god, a cat! Excuse me. My cat is trying to eat me. Down.
He's cleaning and sharpening his paws.
On my leg.
Hey,
Anyway, now that I'm a human scratch post. So that is why what will usually be some kind of wine that my wife will be very proud of, even though something cheap we can buy because we're poor today.
Oh, you gotta get wine about $10. Decent bottle. 10 to 15 is good range. Anything lower than that, well, mass production.
Yes, mass production.
And poisons or whatever weird stuff they put in.
Hey, but this isn't any normal coffee. What is this, wife?
The Grizzly coffee. Just kidding. We don't want
This is my wife's special iced coffee. I highly recommend it. Very much so. And it is going to propel us forward. Because we have something to talk about today, don't we? In our nightly routine with the children in bed and the cat using me as a scratch post and the dog watching outside.
Helps keep you in line, the cat.
Keeps going. So, wife, what are we talking about?
Wine?
It's like, I came in here for a wine podcast. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm joking. We're talking about the indigo.
The indigo?
The
indigo? We're talking about colors. Fancy colors. Gatito colors.
Especially the blues hue.
Fear the indigo. Wendigo. No.
Wendigo.
Wendigo.
Is that what happens after he passes gas?
Well, all I know that now, if I am in a position to mock the Wendigo, I will know to call him the indigo. And we...
Blue gas.
Ah! My cat's the Wendigo indigo.
Like, stop it, you
man, he
fool.
just keeps jumping on me. Anyway, yeah. If you could get through all that and get around the colors, you would know that we were talking about Wendigos today. And my wife is losing it again, thinking about a giant purple monster in the woods. Well, indigo's not quite
blue.
Bluish something. Only
I know red and blue makes purple, okay? But...
only posh people use the word indigo. No.
Here we are talking about wine, but we can't talk about colors apparently.
No colors.
You're not gonna color my wine.
Don't you talk about the white wine. The indigo wine. Anyway, you can tell this is going to be a very serious podcast. I'm going to, you better be scared. But no. So.
It's like a deep, bright shade of blue.
The Wendigo?
No,
I'm sure glad you knew this. My wife is...
Oh,
Okay. We have
purple
officially messed around too long, and I don't care. So let's roll with this.
Yeah, it's the first podcast. We gotta have a lot of fun on such.
I'm gonna have fun on all these podcasts. I don't know what you're talking about. It's the coffee. The wine will, when we're whining on future podcasts, we will be going down rather than going crazy. Caffeine versus, a glass of wine at the end of the night.
There's both a crash at the end.
Do you remember what we're talking about, wife, or do I have to remind you?
The Wendigo.
Not indigo.
The Wendigo.
Wendigo.
Wind.
People are gonna
Nobody
start,
breaks the wind.
Someone's gonna make art or a merch about a
North of the Himalayas, Wendigo.
Oh, God. You couldn't see it, but the cat just tried to shred my balls again. Cat!
It was your kneecap. Come on.
Yeah, well.
Sad phrase.
Did you see her calling me out? I'm trying to make this podcast funny. She's like, that wasn't your balls. Actually, it was your knees. Yeah, it's because there's something there to squish. Mansplaining! Look out.
Oh, God.
All right, so, man, I bet that ages me now. There's probably Gen Zers who've never even heard that. That's a fancy one. But, so, we're finally going to get started here. I might cut some of that out. I might leave it all in because it's pretty funny.
Keep your balls.
I will keep my balls. There's no... I'm going to cut that out, though. And that. Because I don't need to embarrass my wife too much.
I haven't had coffee in a while.
So, we're actually going to get really started now. Now that we talked about gibberish and nonsense. So, to the initiated, most crazy people who like to listen to creepy things will know what a Wendigo is at this point. Wife, do you know what a Wendigo is?
Yes.
What is it?
Cannibal human eating demon.
I don't know what that voice is. She suddenly turned into a squirrel on my podcast. Look out! So, if we go with the pop culture, or even, I don't know if you'd call Reddit and the internet necessarily pop culture. We'll call it pop culture just in a general sense.
I am so not in pop culture.
You're
Because I didn't know about this weird woo-woo.
The
until
weird
you-
woo. This indigo thing.
there
You
is-
didn't know about indigo. You have to be the first person to call it indigo, I have to say. And that actually cracks me
It
up.
will become a meme.
I
You
want
heard
it to
about
be a
the
meme.
indigo.
Have you heard about indigo? It's so violent, it'll eat you. The color? God. It's so violent. But all the people who are actually curious about what the Wendigo is are like, will you shut up about this stupid color already?
Here's the thing, we just gotta get the anticipation going.
Yeah. So, the modern depictions often has like an 8-foot tall, Bigfoot type body creature. Okay, that's a bit rough depending on what you think a Bigfoot is, but you get the point. Bipedal, hairy, kind of looks like a deer, but bigger and muscular, might have some rotting bits on it, and a big old antler, right? This is the modern depiction. Another
It just
depiction...
reminds me of a whiskey bottle. Never mind.
What kind of whiskey have you gotten into while I wasn't looking?
There isn't. Never mind.
There's a demon on a bottle. Ooh, that sounds like another
I need
stream.
to show you that picture,
That's
actually.
another podcast.
Yeah,
to have
there
fun
was like, it was a deer in a suit jacket, and
with. Oh.
it had the word master underneath. Now that I think about it, it's really
This
weird,
is a
isn't
little
it?
creepy.
Holy cow!
Side podcast
It
notes.
was an ad in Thailand, of all places.
Huh. Yeah, we'll have to make a podcast about that later.
Anyway,
You're
continue.
gonna have to come
I'm
back
so
for
sorry.
that one. Come back.
Sucker.
Oh man. So, the other depiction, I think kind of Supernatural, the old TV show. Man, that probably dates me now too, which is funny to think about. But the Supernatural show with the very good.
I am so shocked how far I got in watching that with you.
Yeah,
Because anything like this thing gets me heebie-jeebies.
Well, to be fair, it became less and less horror and much
just
more
more
like Demon Hunter at the end. Let's face
Demon
it.
porn.
No, demon killing porn, more like. I don't. Wife? What supernatural show were
I
you watching?
don't know.
Was this like a cheap knockoff
No, it was
version in Thailand?
No, it's the one in Vietnam.
Oh.
Just kidding.
It's like that meme.
But
I
it's
think
like-
I got the wrong movie. Why is he wearing a thong? This is very
I think I
confusing.
got the wrong whiskey bottle. Just saying.
These are our late night thoughts after our children have turned our brains
And we
to
didn't have
cheese.
wine tonight.
I know,
we're
we're
just
just
coffee.
overly. We'll have to see when we have wine in our second episode. You guys will have to let us know if we tune it down enough, and you have to
Are we whining enough?
Are we? And you
Whining
have to.
down.
We'll have to decide if we should be drinking coffee or wine. Maybe like one coffee, one a month.
Ooh, a mix. No, it's a lot.
I'm not mixing wine and coffee. Are you? Horror. God. Anyway.
No, never mind. That was coffee and vodka. The coffee margarita.
You know, if
Espresso
we ever did
margarita.
live in a haunted house, I think we would frustrate ghosts.
You know, I never want to.
Because they'd be trying to scare us, and then we'd just start talking about something random and annoying. They'd they break something. We're like,
No, come on, you keep talking.
stop talking about the Indigo. So the supernatural show kind of popularized another view, which kind of looks more like a rake but taller. And now I'm losing more jargon for those who still don't know. A rake kind of looks like a golem type creature, but more evil.
Oh, I thought you meant like an actual garden rake.
No. God, like an indigo rake. Terror.
It's a blue
Whoa,
rake.
those Indians, man, they didn't get off the hooch, if you know what I mean. Those indigo rakes were after them. God, I needed I think I need a brief image of an AI art in this episode of an evil indigo rake. It's the garden.
An evil garden rake.
An evil cannibal rake. Does that wait? If a rake's a cannibal, does that mean it eats other rakes? It doesn't eat humans.
Eats metal.
Wood. Oh no.
Oh boy.
Okay.
You better keep.
I'm moving. We're taking our time. Look. I'm gonna point out the time. See, we're only 12 minutes in. God. Probably
12 minutes and 55 seconds.
Don't be that exact. They'll know that we had a little oopsie earlier that I had to skip out.
I'm not pregnant.
Yeah, give her some time, boys. Like she's been pregnant a lot in the last few years. I didn't drink awkwardly. So back to the Wendigo rake thing. So right, both of these views of the Wendigo are modern projections. Not real, not actual Wendigo. If you see an indigo rake if you see a spindly, weird, rotting, fast, possibly red-eyed, and uses your family member's voice to lure you into the woods, deer thing, I'm not saying you didn't see it, but I'm saying it's not a Wendigo. And, if you see a weird, spindly golem dude in the woods who's really gaunt and strong and weird, he's not a Wendigo either. He might exist, but he's not a Wendigo. This is where we get to the original story. And bear with me, we have a fun little conclusion at the end, in between all of our jokes, and as I mock my wife's silliness. It's really fun.
English was my second language, okay?
That's always her excuse. Of course,
What can I say? I was adopted.
If you want to mess with her head, you can say, "Oh, really? So you want to start talking in your first language?"
Pushka.
The only word she knows. So.
I used to go around saying pushka.
Anyway.
And then the babushka.
Babushka, akugushka. No, we're not talking about the Baba Yaga yet. We might do that another time. Yeah, says wife. Okay. So the cat has turned himself into bread and is no longer trying to shave my balls. That's good. Now we can talk into an actual meat of the matter. My wife's going to distract me by drawing a picture. Makes me think she's bored. But that's okay. That's why I drug her in here, to bore her and make her care about things that I care about. So,
Because you're so loving.
I'm gonna cut that out just because of you. So, the original story of the Wendigo comes from northern tribes, and by northern tribes, we're talking tribes that were hanging out in Canada, like as far north as any of the tribes. And I guess I should start with that. Excuse me. If you didn't know anything about Wendigo, it's basically a creature that comes out of various myths in Native American mythology, but specifically, it comes from a few tribes in Canada, like the northernest regions. We're not talking Eskimo yet. Not an Eskimo. Just Canada, not Alaska. And man, I wish I had more notes on me.
Spanish. Wrong note.
She's talking about Canada. If you live in Canada, you're welcome in Spanish. So, the Indigo rate telling you you're welcome in Spanish in Canada. This meme's getting out of control. I'm gonna kill it. So, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna cut out that joke. That was a dumb joke.
You might as well keep it. I mean,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna let my wife.
I can't always say the dumb things.
Okay. So, and wow. So this was a little ad hoc. In the future, I will do more. I will bring back my old research back in the day, and I'll give you exact tribe names and whatnot. But seriously, if you just type in like original Wendigo myth, the tribe names will pop up. The stuff I'm going to talk about will pop up. In the future, I'll include all of it. But because I was a little ad hoc and my children kept me from researching today, you can ask my wife. I was down there trying to research. I went through 3 different topics. And
he's like, we're gonna talk about this. No, we're gonna talk about that. And
then the children kept needing me and needing her. And yeah. So, but these northern tribes whose names I don't quite remember right off the moment had a much different story. So, depending on the tribe and the location, it would have different flavors, but the main gist of it was the Wendigo was a giant in the woods, but not any normal giant. It was like a spiritual wumbo jumbo giant, a kind of giant that in some cases you couldn't see, but you could hear thumping through the woods. It would always want to eat humans. It might have something like red eyes, depending on the version. And it was like thought of to be seen way up in the north, like way far in the deepest wildernesses, and it would come by and you'd hear it stomping and you need to hide. Now, you may wonder, how does a giant cannibal myth play into this weird story that we have now about a dude getting supernatural powers from cannibalism? Well, the answer was these giants, they wouldn't just eat things themselves. Like I said, they were spiritual giants as well. They were both physical and spiritual. Some of them could turn invisible, all the rest. And one of the things they were said to do was invade your dream. This is where the spirit of the Wendigo came in, right? I'm sure you've heard versions where the Wendigo is just a spirit. Well, the spirit is supposed to come from these giants that infect your dreams and then slowly turn you crazy until you desire human flesh and they basically take over. It's depending again, right? It could be literally the giant spirit doing it, or it could be sending other spirits after you to mess with your head. And this is supposed to be this long process where the person starts to go crazy, and then they partake. Like kill someone, they eat them. Maybe it was even in a situation where it was a survival situation, whatever it is, and they eat human flesh. Because remember, we're talking about the cold north here. This isn't like there's a reason why these people were often very nomadic. It was really hard to survive up there. There's a reason why, like all these tribes, like I think it was Apache, Aztecs for sure, and a bunch of other tribes actually migrated from the north to the south, killing all the tribes on the way. So, don't feel bad for a lot of these tribes that died later on because they killed everyone on their way. And the reason why you don't know the names of these other tribes that they killed, some of them, but they were killed down to last man, woman, and child, and the memory of them completely washed away. So, Nonetheless, tribes killing. Anyway, I'm not reminding myself about where I was in the killing. Uh, hard point. Right, hard to live, very cold up there. Tons of tribes just left because they didn't want to starve to death. Or maybe they were being chased by Wendigos. Anyway, so getting the glare from my wife.
It was cold sage from blue. Indigo.
Blue. Indigo. So.
Indiegogo.
Right. And that's why you have the version of the story where it's a giant in the woods and the version of the story where it's a spirit that possesses you when you either in an act of desperation eat human flesh or even just starts to infect your dreams and drive you crazy. Now, the thing that made this different than just, oh, you had a rough moment, it was this or you're going to die, so you partook, right? The Wendigo was supposed to go for a process where they basically stopped wanting to eat anything else. So they didn't want any vegetables or fruit anymore, and the only meat they ever wanted was human flesh. And some versions, particularly kids. Awkward. But they're also supposed to gain power through the consumption and power through the spirits that are possessing them, right? And then they're supposed to get stronger and stronger as this time goes on. Like, the more they turn into a Wendigo, the harder they are to kill. So, there's a lot of interesting actual written down stories. There's like 3 or 4 of them I could mention off the top of my head. There was a guy who was ostentious. Sometimes I mess up silly words that I like to write down, but I can't speak sometimes.
Like
but
antlers.
Suppose antlers is not. You hear this woman? Antlers. Oh, that's supposed to be antlers. You tell me who thinks it's antlers. Anyway, so wife, right? What this guy did was he was supposed. Everyone liked him. He seemed like a good guy. He had a big family. But there was this moment in the woods after a rough winter, because what a lot of these tribes would do, they would go off in as family units during the winter and start their own survival little encampments, and then they would all meet back up in the summer. It varied, right? But the idea was they spread out so they weren't all trying to eat the same food sources. But for whatever reason, this guy pops up without his family, and he had something like 12 kids, some crazy thing like that. And after an investigation, it was, I believe, in the Mounties and a few other groups, and the Mounties might not have existed yet, whatever authority was in the land at the time, ended up finding out and stumbling upon his entire family, or what was left. He had eaten his entire family. It was horrific. This is a documented case. And we can also say that this was not an act of desperation, because there was plenty of food around. Mm-hmm. We can say there was enough proof to show that he specifically went after humans and his own family to boot. And again, this guy was not just like a monster who popped out. He wasn't abused crazily. He just suddenly went nuts out of nowhere with plenty of food around, and he went after his kids and stuff. Horrific. I believe some of his family members were never properly accounted for, but they were able to find enough corpses for the rest. And yes, they found enough proof to say, yeah, he did it, and he eventually admitted it when they found all the proof. That's the really freaky story. There are other ones where, like during civil wars and whatnot, and wars between tribes, one of the white people would be around, and they'd watch all these guys in the grab a woman or something. There was even one case, if I remember correctly, a woman was telling them to kill her because she said she was going crazy, and the Wendigo had her. And eventually they did. And there's all these stories about them being really hard to kill. I remember another story where a lady comes in and everyone instantly has kind of bad vibes about her because they found her. She didn't seem really gaunt. She didn't seem, even though she was alone in the wilderness, she didn't really seem too interested in their food, but she seemed to be really interested in their kids in an uncomfortable way. Few of the braves instantly noticed it, waited till night. She started to make her move and go towards the kids. They caught her. They tomahawk her to death, but she doesn't properly die, and it's this whole crazy. I don't want to spread the details to understand it. But remember, with that, that was a story told to a white dude who wrote it down. Now, I'll be as racist as I feel like being, because that's who I am. Thank you very much. It's harder when it's just a native story being told to you. Not because I don't believe them when they share a lot of their stories, but because they didn't write stuff down. They didn't bother to include proof. So it's really hard when it's just stories passed down to know what's true and what's not true about it. So, interesting that they believe so hard into this thing, at least, that people would literally say, "Kill me, I'm turning into a crazy cannibalistic monster." Whew! I'm glad I got all of that out. So, wife, what do you think about all this madness I've shared with you?
Very disturbing and very demonic.
She just jumped ahead in our notes.
No,
Yeah,
it is demonic. It's going after innocence.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they don't eat normal food or decide not to eat them, it's very different than just saying, "Oh, I'm vegan. I don't want to eat your chicken."
But I'll eat your children. It's another kind of veganism. Hitler would be scared of that. And by the way, Hitler was a vegan. Oh, I got a text. Dang it! Who texted me at this time of night?
It was Hitler.
Dang it! I knew he was still alive. Oh man.
Only had 27 minutes.
Oh, it's a good time. Well, we're getting into the meat of the matter now.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's really interesting about the real story of the Wendigo, and I find it interesting that we have all these pop cultural references and Reddit type stuff that is obscuring the original story.
I'm so glad I don't read Reddit.
And we're going to get into Reddit later, but let me tell you, we're going to have some fun stuff about it. But the point is, I'll just leave a little footnote here for you to think about. How easy would it be to obscure a story or a concept than to write a creepypasta about it on a site like Reddit anonymously, and now suddenly everyone can say, "Oh, that came from Reddit. There's no reality to it whatsoever."
And people on Reddit aren't really any people anymore.
Ouch. Brutal. And 1,000 gammas everywhere cried out in agony. So, and then suddenly went silent. Yes.
That's why I got mine.
So, what's really interesting about the original story is how close it is to demonic possession and a lot of other stuff.
Especially the dream part.
Right. We have paralysis demons. We have incubuses and all kinds of concepts of demonic things that mess with your dreams and your thoughts. We know that this is a spiritual thing. God and angels could enter your dreams and speak to you. They could give you visions. Remember, fallen angels are a thing, ladies and gentlemen, watchers and all the rest. So that means they would have a similar power to enter your dreams and mess with your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how the giants would either come in spirit form or they would send spirits to drive you crazy. That is fascinating because you think about hierarchies in heavens. Paul talks about this. Ooh, I can't believe we're halfway through and I'm only now bringing the Bible into this. Bad, Aaron. Bad. But Paul talked about the different layers, right? The principalities, the powers, the princes of this world, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And we know there's a hierarchy in heaven with Jesus Christ and God on top. And then you have the throne guardian angels that take on a physical form of lion heads and like 6 wings and weird spinny eyes. It's a good time. Now, I do push back a little bit. I'm sure you've seen all the biblical accurate alien things, and they always show that, right? They always show the throne guardian because it's really crazy. Those weren't messengers, right? So I just want to point out, God's smart enough to go, yo, I'm not going to send this guy because when he shows up in your dream, you're going to freak the crap out when you see him. I'm going to send this guy who kind of, when he takes on a physical form, looks a bit like you. Cool? Cool. We're all cool.
Yeah, we don't need everybody shitting themselves.
Yeah. And also, the thing about the Throne Guardians, I mean, we can get into the Seraphim. I hope I'm saying that right. I think I am. But you know what I mean. The Throne Guardians to God is they're heavy hitters. Obviously, they guard God's throne. Another question why God needs that, but whatever. And that means, like God, when they show up in a place, it's not just like they show up and talk to you. Like everything. Like think when Christ's birth happened, all the stuff that happened around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about when God passed by, was it Moses or Elijah? No, it was Elijah, right? All this crap happened, and then God was in a whisper, right? But there was earthquakes, there was fire, there was all this stuff
storms.
that was just God passing by. Okay? So, like that, God's heavy hitters, when they show up someplace,
Something's gonna
stuff happens. There's earthquakes. A good example of this is in Ezekiel. When Ezekiel's messenger, and it's a big boy messenger, one of the princes, a watcher in and of himself. We can get into watchers another day. We're going to get into it a little today. I'll go into more detail another time. But when he just shows up to talk to Ezekiel, there's such a massive earthquake that everyone's thrown to the ground and there's light everywhere, but only Ezekiel can see him. But everybody else knows it's there and they're freaking out. So, you gotta think about these things. Now, I'm sure a lot of these entities have ways to communicate without shattering mountains, but at the same time, right? The fact that it often happens needs to be should be a reminder to all of us. Oh, are you comfortable down there, kitty?
No, he was asleep earlier. He's kind of like tossing it about his
So,
oh, he's curled up.
Another connection, which is interesting, if we take the Book of Enoch, and we'll get into the Book of Enoch in more detail another day, but if we go by Christian theology and a little bit of the Book of Enoch back in the day, demons are not fallen angels. I know. Keep with me here. Fallen angels are a different beast altogether. See, if we go back into Genesis, I'm sure a lot of you, if you're on this kind of podcast, know about the Nephilim, which were the sons of giants, who were the sons of watchers or fallen angels. Basically,
and they interbred with humans.
Right.
Interbred.
Interbred. Yeah, interbred works.
Interbred.
Inbred. I don't know if it's interbred. It's your interbred, wife. Your bread's innards. Cut out that loaf and put a hot dog in it. Bam. I was going with a kosh. I was going with a collage? What do you call that thing that we buy?
Collages, yes.
Yes. Yeah, the thing that you put up to your eye and changes the lights, right? A collage. I wouldn't put that in my mouth. Collage of hot dogs. So, in the collage of hot dogs...
Don't make this weird.
It's too late. It's weird. Accept it. Accept the weirdness.
The thing you put up your eye and go like that, that's a kaleidoscope, eh?
Oh, yeah.
A collage is
the hot dog thing.
Well, it's almost...
Isn't it also the mosaic?
No, it reminds me of a croissant with...
Yeah, but there's also like a collage mosaic thing.
A collage. That's where you get rips of paper and make a collage or a photo thing. Yes.
Say collage.
Collide.
Collide. And then they collide and it's a collage of a collage, wife.
Kaleidoscope.
I'm going to make you a collage of a collage.
That's disgusting.
Best sidetrack ever. Anyway, now that I'm hungry at this time of night when I really shouldn't eat, I'm an old man now. I can't do it.
You gotta work out tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Giants, being the sons of these angelic beings, right, that fallen from Christ, had different daddies, if that makes sense. which means they couldn't just enter heaven because they weren't God's sons. They were the sons of, right? You get what I'm going at? They had different daddies. They had bad daddies.
Big bad daddy.
They had bad daddies, right? So they belong to that entity, essentially, in that sense. They, being the children of these spirits, did not have a right to enter heaven, and thus roam the earth as negative, evil spirits. Impure spirits. Do I think there's sorry, I'm getting into later podcasts, I'm sure, a little bit, but the Bible is a little picky about, like, it actually leaves leeway on when you actually end up in hell or when you actually end up in heaven. Side note on something we'll do a little more of a concentrated look at. There is this crazy haunted house. Well, it wasn't a house. It was like a haunted dance floor, but it was a slaughterhouse before that, where a teacher got beheaded and her head got thrown down a well in a satanic sacrifice.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. They killed the guys who did it, but it was haunted by the guys who did it and that woman. And in the purification process, which eventually involved actual Christians and whatnot, they got the communication that these spirits didn't want to move on because it would be rather fiery for them since they'd done satanic rituals and murdered someone. So, take that from where you're leaving. I'm not saying I understand all of it, but there seems to be hints, not only in the Bible, like we have the situation with the Witch of Endor that's able to bring Samuel, I know my prophets, you know your prophets, Samuel back from the dead for a bit to talk to Saul.
That was all spiritual.
Yeah, it was. I always got cracked up. Like, my second grade teacher would always tell me, "Oh, she didn't actually, she didn't think that it actually worked. She was as surprised to Saul that it actually worked. She was just a charlatan."
Oh, really?
And I thought to myself, that's a little strange. What? A little strange. But bringing it back. So, demons and spirits are the spirits of these giants, and their children we would probably argue, who knows how much that blood needs to be diluted before you don't just die and have to roam the earth and wait for the trumpet calls. It's kind of interesting if you look from that perspective. Certain stories in the Bible, like Jesus talking to those demons inside the guy before he threw him in the pigs, I often wondered why Jesus didn't just send him to hell. What's the point? He actually had mercy on these demons. Well, why? Well, in some ways,
I just never thought about that, actually.
Yeah, like, why bother?
Him into the pigs, and the pigs ran up the
right?
cliff.
And you think about it, right? Huh. What did they say? Will you judge us now or early? And he says, no, I won't. Go to the pigs. Well, they said, can we go into these pigs? He said, fine, get out of here, go. And from that, you can see how, in some ways, they can hold themselves back. In some ways, they get instantly sent. It's, a lot of this stuff is a mystery to us. The evangelicals, who right now are a little crazy about certain situations in a Middle Eastern land that I'm not going to bring up right now. Later. They are obsessed with instant gratification.
And always having to dig in too deep.
Yeah, there's way too much of a boomer influence on them. They're all obsessed with just internal retirement in clouds. Like, you got a messed up head when your idea of heaven is eternal retirement home in the clouds, maybe some golf. Never work again.
It's just way nicer.
Yeah, and we're a wonderful mansion, and that's all it is.
I've heard that before.
Little wonder that the younger generations haven't really taken to this view of heaven very well.
I mean, I feel like someday, when I'm gone and whatnot, we're gonna have a duty to do. No.
Better watch your step with that hell of duty, if you know what I mean.
You know what I mean? We're gonna be called to do something, and I don't know what.
That's the thing. We
And
just
you know what? If that's how I think, so be it. Prove me wrong. But no, don't prove me wrong. You
I'm
know
not
what?
gonna prove you wrong.
You know what I mean. I'm
The-
not. I'm not gonna look into it.
That's what I'm here for, and then I'm gonna talk about it, and make you make you wait. Words. I'm gonna make her study this stuff with me because it's fun.
Well, not that part. Like the things that aren't meant to be known, but yet kind of.
Oh, we
That
can't
kind
know for sure.
We can't know for sure. Kind of a thing.
I got you. I'm bored.
I'm not gonna. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna start any flame wars, but I know that there's some sorts in the. They like to go too deep in
The point
stuff.
is, there is a very real possibility that, though I'm not sure if there's a purgatory place, but there might be a middle section, depending on where you're at. I think plenty of people do instantly hop upstairs, if you know what I mean, and some of them hop downstairs, right? Hop downstairs, if you know what I mean, but it seems like some find a way to linger and roam the earth in like spiritual form. And that's what a demon is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is an unclean spirit, which is a more exact translation, right? The word demos, where we get demon, is a Greek term which refers to a spirit that could be good or bad. Unclean spirit, I think, is a more accurate term, but the modern, translations are fun because even though the original word could go either way, demon nowadays is much closer to what an unclean spirit is.
Mm-hmm.
Something nasty. It probably gives them a little more power than they probably should.
When you say it, your first instantly is.
Yeah. Now, you may say, what's the business with this? Why is this an important distinction? Well, power level, for one, and what we'll get into probably the next podcast. Who owns you? That makes sense. Ownership is a big deal in spiritual warfare. These things, being the sons of other gods, are owned in a way by them and not owned by God. We, being sons of God, are owned by God. So that means our spirits are under His jurisdiction. And under His protection as Christians, they can't do what they want with us. They can mess with you a little bit, or they can still mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
And this is why power of prayer is very important.
Yep.
Having more prayer over time helps a lot.
Build it up. Which is also why you don't need to worry about Wendigos if you're a good Christian. No, that says you have to be active.
You still gotta be praying.
You gotta be active. You can't just let your prayer life go and all the rest. And not everyone's gonna run into this crazy business. But going back, the connections here, I hope, are pretty obvious. I went on a way roundabout tangent, but we have giants and spiritual demonic actions that drive people crazy, right? The Wendigo story is a very close parallel to the demonic stories from biblical passages, right? They have superhuman powers. They're driven crazy by some kind of spirit in their head that comes from a demonic giant. That, what do we just establish? That demons are dead giants. And so a giant and partial spiritual power either comes into your dream or sends his dead brethren after you in your dreams. Right? You're right. And so we have these stories, by the way, popped up and were ancient long before the white boys started showing up and spreading Christianity. Long before it. So I propose that we have some interesting connections here. And it's not just the Wendigo story. There are mounds, burial mounds, and all kinds of stories about giants, including some physical evidence. I believe there was a rock that a giant broke. It was either his footprints or his hands are permanently on it, and they're massive and all this other stuff. There was an entire museum of giant skeletons out on Catalina Island in California. They're not there anymore because of the Smithsonian. We'll talk about that one day too. But
I never want to go to a museum ever again. I don't care if it's an art museum or what.
What if we make a museum? Gun museum?
That's different.
Okay. Wine museum.
That's called a winery.
Sounds like a place where you whine.
Can I go there now?
Only if you ride the Indigo rake. So.
No. I'd rather go on a motorbike than that.
So. Yeah. So. Ooh.
I was looking at you to stop.
This is a good time. This is fun.
Whatever.
I like messing with my wife. This is why I dragged her in here, for whenever I start slowing down, she can distract me with something stupid or even related. She did a good job, I think. Everyone, clap for my wife for keeping...
Yes, me being around you helps with my intelligence.
Yeah. Or makes me dumber. I can't decide.
I think it's both.
But... just like with the pyramids of the Aztecs, and there's a lot of stories about pyramids actually in North America. I don't remember if there's any official ones, but there's lots of mounds and burial mounds that are quite large and all this other stuff hinting at other civilizations and things.
What's very interesting too about pyramids, when you think about stones and whatnot, you'll see them in different places, different continents.
Yes.
All look the same.
Or at least have a similar shape to it.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Atlantis. We'll get Atlantis.
Oh no. Why is that
Fish hats. The Pope wears a fish hat. I just thought you should all know.
Is he Atlantean?
Oh, he wishes he was. The current Pope's quite demonic. Oh, I know all you hardcore
Eric.
Catholics are like, he's not actually the Pope, because this one guy put a little caveat in the law that unless you're under God, you're not actually the Pope. Look,
who's God in that
I'm going to be
case?
straight with you guys, okay? Your system voted him in, he's Pope. Sorry. Get him out. You can say he's an imposter all you want. I can say, for example, King John is not actually king. My true king is King Richard. But as long as John's little fluffy ass is on that throne, he might as well be the legit king. So, get him out.
Sounds like constipation.
No, God, get him out. The John. Oh no.
Long John.
Oh no. No. I feel like your stuff was way raunchier than my stuff. I'm just gonna point it out to the world. And now I'm thinking about collages and ways I shouldn't.
Look.
Oh.
It doesn't help that I am Ukrainian, the original Cossack.
She is original Cossack. She will. I actually put a filter on there. Maybe I should have stopped. Would have been funny.
Was it a coffee filter?
No. Was it an indigo filter next to a rig?
Shut up.
No, this is literally what we're talking about.
Oh, wait, you can't shut up because this is a freaking broadcast.
Oh
okay?
my God.
Boom.
But you'll actually find, and we'll bring, in future podcasts, I'll bring different stories in. This story about the spiritual demonic giants are everywhere, all throughout cultures. For example, especially the physical ones as well. Physical giants, other types, the spiritual ones as well. This concept of them descendants to kings and all this other things. Like in the Solomon Islands, there's all kinds of stories about big giants out in the jungle. Now, the ones where they ate a bunch of Japanese soldiers during World War II, those are hard to really nail down because there's no written record, no one claiming it actually happened, so it's hard to know. It's just like rumors that filtered out. Now, to be honest, it wouldn't be so hard to destroy those records. So, who knows? It is true, though, that the locals had stories about giants long before World War II happened, which is interesting. On a more modern take, there are, if you listen to, who knows what we can believe per se, but there are rumors of giants, like 15-foot tall boys in swamps and stuff in the Americas. I know. Seems out there, right? Like, heard it up. But remember, if we're talking about spiritual giants that have that can take on a physical form, then from a scientific perspective, show me an instrument that's going to be able to sense the spirit world. And if it's,
Exactly.
and as we point out, let's say, as people will say, where's the body? Okay, look, you kill a giant body. Where are you going to show it? And who's going to believe it? Like, dude, you could take a picture, a video, you could dissect that thing on a live podcast, like live television,
And then
and
I gotta
people would
believe
still call it fake, right? Here's a funny thing, too, that people don't think about. Me growing up in Nicaragua, I've actually seen what real gore looks like. And it's not what you expect. It actually looks fake. I know this sounds weird, but like I've been around some car wrecks and stuff, and they didn't cover up bodies
I
down there.
mean, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they don't cover up bodies in the third world, okay? So you can just be on your normal day, you pass by a grisly scene,
You would
and
know.
you would have. So
I mean,
some gore looks like what you would expect, but a lot of it just looks fake. And this goes for a lot of things. Like, you know those alien things that the Mexican government have been showing? A lot of people on our side have been saying, oh, it's all fake. I actually think they're real, but what they are, this is where I get to put myself really crazy out there, are mummified, physical, Nephilim type descendant creatures. So if we go, yeah, if we go through a lot of folklore and a lot of stuff, there's strong hints that not only did some of the descendants of the Watchers go really big, but some of them went really small and very spiritual based, right?
That would be a different podcast.
Yeah, I can't. You're right. And so I think they're actually mummified demon monster things, but they're calling them aliens because they want to push the alien things. I mean, how crazy is it that they have actually created a situation where they can actually say, hey, look, we've been hiding aliens from you this whole time, or as I think they are, demons and physical manifestations and all the rest, right? And people just go, yeah. Right? That cracks me up so much. Makes you think what else they got. Ooh, podcast galore. You know, I've heard rumors about special secret airships. I know people like airships. They're like the Hindenburg. Yeah, but like with stealth technology, well, they don't need to have too much stealth technology. They strap like jet engines to them and give them a burst of speed, and then they coast forward silently. Yeah, cool idea. Now I want to build one.
I think that would be a different podcast.
It would be a different podcast. I'm getting into different part. I think. What do you guys think? Does it sound like my wife's trying to end this podcast?
No, maybe.
That's something to know about my
Maybe a
wife.
little bit.
Is she's a little bit more sensitive on these topics than I am. So we should all thank her for joining me in my little cellar studio closet. Because it's nice having her around, and it also helps me not get too raunchy on these podcasts. Or raunchy's not the right word. Graphic, because
too into it.
In spiritual warfare, my wife is very sensitive and senses a lot more stuff. I'm more like a bull in a China house. Like, you know, they can throw a brick at my face and I might just ignore them. But when I'm mad, I go crazy. So, but, you know, like I said, they gotta, like, really get my attention. And I still might just go, was that a freak? Like, literally, I will share one personal story about the only time I saw a shadow person.
Oh, my God.
My wife and I were dating. All right. And we were long distance dating. And I sat down in my apartment. We've been talking for a bit. And the next thing I know, a shadow just zips behind me on the webcam.
I saw it. It was creepy.
Yeah, and like I had a fan on in the room, but
it was not the fan at all.
Because we'd been talking
for a while.
The light didn't
shift or anything. It just...
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I was on the third floor. And it's not like you said, oh, like the light goes shine from the outside from a car. No, I'm third floor. No lights are shining in, and the shadow would have been on the wall away from the camera.
Yeah.
This like was something that blocked the light above my head as it passed out my window.
Weird.
I don't want. I don't want to
Yeah,
give.
yeah. No.
But my instant reaction was laughter at that, and I didn't even
Hey,
skip a.
Hey, did you see that?
It was
And
like,
I'm like,
I looked. I don't know if I was just being bravado because I had my girlfriend on the line, but I was like, "Do you see that? That's
I
hilarious!"
just remember like looking at him like, are you kidding me right now?
I laughed really hard and went, "What are you doing here, ghost? Get out!" We actually had a lot of weird stuff happen around when we were dating.
That's not the first time. I
No.
think there was other times, but yeah.
But that was the
There
only
are-
time I had something manifest like that, and I almost
And
wonder.
it's quite interesting how it started when you and I were just dating, and
Mhm.
we were long distance, 2,000 miles
Yup.
away.
And the funny,
10,000, not 2,000.
the funny thing is, since it's never happening, we'll see. I say it, maybe I'll see something later now, but
Oh, God.
I suspect that my reaction was not what they wanted.
Mm,
Oh, that's funny to me.
Yep.
Anyway,
Mhm.
I mean, you imagine yourself, right? You're a descendant of some weird watcher being. You freak the crap out of people on ghost videos and all the rest, and then you're sent to go screw with this guy because for whatever reason you don't like him and his girlfriend together, and you do the woof, I'm here, and he goes, "Bah!" What are you doing here, ghost? Get lost. Well, what can I say?
Mm.
Growing up on Nicaragua, I've had a lot crazier things happen, but I'm not here to toot my own horn.
No, you're not.
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little.
Mm. The point is, the connections
It's never fun to.
are all over the world, connecting demonic type activity very close to what you would consider demonic in Western culture with giants and descendants of gods and all this other stuff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to leave you on. This concept that demonic activity and the way it acts is universal throughout cultures that
It is.
just have different concepts of how spirits work. And many of them do have different concepts of how the gods worked and all the rest. Like dragons in Far East Asia were considered positive and negative beings, but they could give you power and all the rest. One could almost argue it sounds kind of like a watcher, doesn't it? Like, hey, you give me power and I'll give you this or something. And that's one person could argue, excuse me, that's why Western dragons were always considered monsters. Because we knew what their daddies were. We know your daddy.
No, my.
And just to lay out to you guys also, before we even started this podcast, I want to kind of push this because a big point of why we're starting this is I want people to have stronger spiritual warfare. I want you guys that when you see that shadow freak out your wife, laugh at it and tell it to get lost. Okay?
In Christ's name.
In Christ's name, tell it to get lost. Because I'll also be honest with you guys, I have grown since then because they used to also mess with me and I had no idea what they were doing. But now it's not so easy for them to do it. But if we bring back that bowl analogy, right? They were running up to me and like spray painting my butt and like slapping me with stuff, and I was like, "What's going on?" like a half blind, angry ox, and, right? And God's sitting in the background going, "You want help? You want help?" I'm like, "I don't know what's going on." Right? I don't know what's going on. I don't need help right now. And God's going, they're spray painting your butt. Will you help me? Let me help you. And I'm just like, what's going on? So it's good if you have that bold mentality. But remember, there's often things going on that you're not sensing. So before we even started this podcast, I prayed a bunch. I circled our house and I prayed over it. I was also armed because we've had some shootings in the neighborhood recently, and yeah, we're really rural. It's crazy how rural.
Rural, but not rural.
Rural. I mean, there's a freaking cow farm like right across the street.
Yeah, right down the street a little further.
Yeah, it's like a
It's
horse
like
thing.
a rehab thing.
Yeah, that.
And then past the rehab, further down the road, is the horse thing.
Yeah,
we also have a rodeo.
Then
too.
we can hear the rodeo at night.
Like
it's
we
hilarious.
hear the fireworks and everything.
You can see it from the back porch. It's lovely. And so, anyway, if you need to walk your property armed, you should probably do that anyway, because things can get physical, even in the spiritual world. So, pray properly before you deal with anything. Remember you have power over it. Don't trust the indigo rake freaks. I'm just saying it over and over again because I want someone to eventually make a shirt with the indigo rake. I want it. I want it so bad. But you guys, I don't, this is the first one. I'm trying to figure out how to do a proper outro. So, throughout all these different cultures, we have connections with demonic type spirits, with giants, and often with giants and gods and all the rest. So pay attention. Make sure you know who owns you, which is God. You are not owned by these watchers, and they
God isn't Jesus Christ.
God and Jesus Christ.
God and
Jesus Christ and
You're
his
right,
father.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, I'm very.
Are we witch testing right now?
No.
Jesus Christ is Lord, and He's Lord of you too, even if you can't accept it. Suck it, atheist. Suck it harder. Anyway.
Oh my.
Best witch test ever. And so, under the blood of the Lamb, you can say, Sayonara, I am not owned by you, and this land I am on, because remember, they care about land. Right? I'm going to share something that we'll talk about in other podcasts. Part of what the Watcher Rebellion was for creation itself.
Dominion.
For dominion over the physical world. That's why they had children with women, is they were creating physical sons that could claim the world, right? God made it for our inheritance. They made rival children to claim our inheritance.
Oh my, now you got me wondering about why did they name that country the Dominion Republic?
Dominican Republic.
Oh. I'm gonna shut up. Never mind.
On that note, if you're from the Dominican Republic, send your letters.
No, please don't.
And suck it. No. Anyway, we're toning this down. This is great. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you learned something a little new, and I hope you can recognize a little more spiritual activity, know a little bit more on how to fight it in Dominion. God owns you. God owns your property. Let them know and tell them to get lost and laugh in their faces. Republic. Yeah, he owns that too. We'll be. The plan is a podcast every Wednesday night, gentlemen. Yep. So.
And once the wake up, be picking out a wine to try and.
Oh, my wife is going to use this as... So the whole reason why she's here is to have an excuse to buy more wine, as we're very poor. But you know what? I'm going to let it happen because it's kind of cool, and it created a nice logo. I like that logo.
You like that logo?
I like that logo.
The file?
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, in the background, you got the spilt wine.
And the wine. It's a good time.
Yeah.
So, this has been the Grizzly Files. Believe it or not, when I first made my blog and everything, I didn't even know about the X-File. I never even watched it. I was just going to file
books based on it, but I didn't really read them. I didn't really watch
Wasn't here Scully? I don't... That's the...
I never watched or read them either because
the only episode I remember is a shroom that tried to eat them.
I know nothing. Never trust a shroom.
Never trust a shroom the size of a forest trying to eat you.
You know what? I think it is.
It's time.
You hour with the Grizzlies, and
I'm getting texts again.
We should probably say goodbye.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys have been great. Catch you next Wednesday on the Grizzly Files.
Now, should I pick red, white, or rose wine?
Is there an indigo wine with a rake?
No.
Dang it!
I am not going to put food coloring in there.
I'm stopping this one.